your experience, what are the main causes of stress?
My clients and audiences tell me that their big stressors are too much to do, too little time, money stressors, commuting is a big stressor. I think that the opportunities to be stressed are everywhere.
Do you think life is more stressful now than it was, say, 20 years ago?
I think that today there are many more opportunities to be stressed. There are many more distractions, especially ones that are technology driven. And I'm a big fan of technology. We can use technology to help us reduce stress. But when you have emails coming in and text messages left and right and Twitter feeds and Facebook messages and TV and the kids and a job and maybe school, it really divides our attention and it produces a stress response that is often ongoing, continuous within us. And all of that stuff can take away the time to just relax, take a walk, not think about who's trying to communicate with us, and not needing to be on all of the time. So I think there are just more chances to be stressed today, and therefore we need to really pay more attention to reducing stress.
Can you tell us something about the effects of stress on the body and mind?
Stress impacts the body because it produces wear and tear. And when we are constantly stressed, our organs, our immune system become the punching bags of our stress response. Stress is really important, and in fact, it can be a lifesaver. But when it kicks into action all the time, it has a corrosive effect on us. So for example, our immune systems are weakened when we are under a lot of stress, and especially for a long period of time. When our immune systems are weaker, it opens us up to be more susceptible to illnesses in the environment. Stress contributes to high blood pressure, which contributes to heart problems and stroke. Stress impacts our sleep. So when we get stressed during the day, it often makes it more difficult for us to fall asleep at night, or to stay asleep, or to have a quality night's sleep. And if we don't get a good night's sleep, then we are tired the next day, which makes us more stressed in many cases. So it becomes a stress, poor sleep cycle that is stressful and tiring. So these are all reasons to really pay attention to our stress levels and to take action to reduce the stress.
How can you help people deal with stress, and how long does it take to find a solution?
The great thing about stress management is that it's like a salad bar. There are 30 different choices on a salad bar, and some of us like most of the things that are offered, but some of us don't like everything. But we get to choose what works for us and what we enjoy. Same thing with stress management. There are more than 30 different ways you can manage stress. There are probably 30 million and counting. And we should pick the techniques, many of them easy and simple and fun, that we like. And therefore we'll be more likely to use them on an ongoing basis. So stress management can take as little as 10 seconds. You can look at a beautiful picture that you took on your last vacation. You can put it on your computer screen, you can put it next to your bed, you can put it on your desk. And just focusing on that photo of the ocean or a mountain or a beach can alleviate stressed feelings immediately. We can do 1-minute breathing exercises. We can exercise. We can take a 10-minute walk around the block. We can meditate each day. So there are many different ways to prevent and reduce the stress that we're experiencing. The key is to do it on a regular basis.
Are the solutions to stress physical, mental, or both?
Stress management involves both the mind and the body. They make great partners when we're trying to feel better and to cut down on the stress that we're experiencing. I once worked in a school where a student identified his stressor as riding on the subway. He felt very stressed going to school every day and very stressed when it was time to go home because the subway made him feel very closed in and like he wanted to escape. He couldn't stand the crowds. And then we opened up to the rest of the group and we asked them for different ways that this student might think about this stressor and different ways that he might act to try and reduce it. And the group came up with all sorts of great possibilities, including that he ride in a different car, in the first car or the last car, because it's often less crowded compared to the center car, which is where he always used to ride. And he liked that idea, and I heard from the principal of the school a few weeks later that he in fact had started riding in the first car, and for the first time in his subway taking life, he didn't feel stressed, he didn't feel anxious because the car was less crowded and he felt so much better. And you might think, well, that's such an easy answer. Why didn't he think of that himself? The truth is, and I think we all identify with this, we get into very fixed ways, habits almost, of thinking and acting because we deal with our stressors and have dealt with them in similar ways for a long, long time. So we lose the perspective. We don't take as much time to think about how we could deal with our stressors in different ways. So this is an example of how the mind and body and actions and thoughts can work together to really make a big difference in the way we feel.
Are some age groups more susceptible to stress than others?
Stress is a very democratic occurrence. So older people are stressed, college students are stressed, babies get stressed, 30-somethings get stressed, men are stressed, women are stressed. So it's hard to say if one group is more stressed than another.
What makes students stressed? How does stress affect their lives or their studies? And what are the most stressful times in a typical student's life?
College and being a student can be really fun and exciting and rewarding. There are also a lot of stressors associated with it. There's the studying, there's the pressure to do well on exams so that you can get a better job and perhaps make more money. You are in a different environment that doesn't have the same support that you used to have, especially if you were back home. There is the social stress of needing to meet new people. And also for a lot of young people, especially those in their teens and 20s, we see a lot of mental health issues arise, and there's a greater need to get help for them while in school. But if you're not with your usual support network, it's even more challenging sometimes to do so. Stress makes it difficult to study, to focus, to concentrate. When you're sitting down to take an exam and you studied really hard for the exam and then all of a sudden you're having trouble remembering what you studied, stress can play a big role in making it more difficult for us to recall information. If you're doing a presentation, public speaking, that can be very stressful for a lot of students as well as professionals. In fact, still, public speaking is feared more than death by most people. Then there's the financial stress of being in school. Not only not having a lot of money to spend on things that you want to do, fun activities, but what awaits you when you graduate, which for many students is a lot of financial stress and loans to repay. So being a student, great fun, and also can provide a lot of great stress.
You set up Stress Busters as an anti-stress program for students. Can you tell us something about it and how it works?
We train teams of students to provide 5-minute free back rubs at events all over campus all year long. And people on campus come to the events, and not only do they get an amazing stress-relieving back rub, but they also learn about other stress reduction and wellness resources on campus that we train our students to provide. And we have seen incredible reductions in feelings of stress, tension, anxiety, lowering of feelings of being overwhelmed from before someone has the Stress Busters experience to after. We also find students telling us that they're better able to cope with their stressors and they're better able to complete the tasks that they have at hand after they have one of our Stress Busters experiences. When you have emails coming in and text messages left and right, stress is really important, and in fact, it can be a lifesaver. Stress contributes to high blood pressure, which contributes to heart problems and stroke. So these are all reasons to really pay attention to our stress levels and to take action to reduce the stress. The great thing about stress management is that it's like a salad bar. We can do 1-minute breathing exercises. We can exercise. We can take a 10-minute walk around the block. Stress is a very democratic occurrence. So older people are stressed, college students are stressed, babies get stressed. There's a greater need to get help for them while in school, but if you're not with your usual support network, it's even more challenging sometimes to do so.
Do you think life today is more stressful than it used to be?
I definitely think it's more stressful than it used to be, and I think a big part of that is sort of online culture and social media. So everything you do is online, everyone can comment on what you're doing, you're sort of seeing yourself, you're pitted against everyone else in your career field, doing the same things as you, and you never sort of get satisfaction anymore, because you'll do something and think you've done really well, and then you'll go online, share it, look at what other people have done, and then suddenly everyone else seems to be doing so much more than you.
I think it's using that phrase, pitted against other people, is really interesting, because it sort of highlights the fact that life at the moment is more about being in competition with other people rather than achieving things for yourself. And I think you're absolutely right. It's all about comparing yourself, this constant comparing, whether consciously or unconsciously, with other people. And I mean, I remember a time, and I imagine you do as well, where things were slower as well. The pace of life and the things that you did was slower, so that was a different kind of stress. So, you know, if you'd write a letter to achieve something, you'd have to wait for that response, and there was nothing you could do in between. Whereas now you send an email, you're expected to do a million things before you get a response, and you're expected to be reachable at all times. Whereas before, it was more about doing things because of need rather than want, I think.
There's no hiding place nowadays, that's the problem. And you are so easily exposed to everybody around you, and there's reality shows and all sorts of things. People want to succeed so quickly, whereas many times years ago you would never succeed that quickly. You would begin to build a career for yourself, or meet people and then open yourself out to the outside world. But nowadays it's like, now, I want it now.
Yeah.
And it's a need rather than a want.
And I think the definition of success has changed as well.
Absolutely.
I definitely think it's more stressful than it used to be, and I think a big part of that is sort of online culture and social media.
I think it's using that phrase, pitted against other people, is really interesting, because it sort of highlights the fact that life at the moment is more about being in competition with other people. And I think you're absolutely right. It's all about comparing yourself, this constant comparing, whether consciously or unconsciously, with other people. And I mean, I remember a time, and I imagine you do as well, where things were slower as well.
There's no hiding place nowadays, that's the problem. And you are so easily exposed to everybody around you, and there's reality shows and all sorts of things. People want to succeed so quickly.